about this 2 weeks ago when Obama was in town. And I talked about it again yesterday because a pretty big city in Washington State is saying they're not going to pay the $30,000+ per leg of Obama's fundraising trips up there. Well, now the headline at drudgereport.com, Hollywood horror, Obama motorcade traps pregnant woman in labor. Now, look, Obama can openly fund al-Qaeda and ISIS and IS, Islamic State, to run around and murder 300,000 Christians. Nobody cares. And Obama could shut down most of our power plants and double electricity prices. People don't care. And Obama can sign laws that bankrupt almost all U.S. businesses that aren't exempt from Obamacare, and the general public just can't really see it. But you keep a woman having a baby from being able to go to the hospital. Oh, my goodness, it's for the children. Just like they're using a bunch of teenagers as the face of the border being dissolved, the North American Union. Well, it's children. I mean, we've got to let millions more in. It's for the children. Well, wait, Obama and the motorcade, NBC News local, woman in labor unable to cross street to hospital because of Obama motorcade. And listen, here's the issue. When he came to Austin a few weeks ago, I was watching it when his motorcade began at like 7:45 in the morning. He was downtown. I was watching the live news feeds, had all the traffic cams tied into it, so they were showing it. And they shut down most of downtown, and then he drives down I-35, and they shut the thing down in North Austin all the way to South Austin for 2 hours. For close to 2 hours, like an hour and 45 minutes, because I was driving to work and watched the tail end at like 9:45, and this started before 8. And the last motorcycles were there, and they still had cops blocking entrance ramps, and I had to drive around it to get to work. So maybe it was more than 2 hours. I'm being conservative. That is crazy. That is crazy. I-35 is already from 7 in the morning till 9:30 in the morning, 2 mile an hour traffic on average. I mean, it's just a nightmare when you're downtown. As far north as Georgetown sometimes, it just snarls. Same thing in the afternoon, 3:30 to about 6:30, you just better avoid it. And it caused traffic shutdowns all over the place. Cars overheating, things breaking down. And again, we've got all this other tyranny going on, but when people see scores of federal helicopters and police helicopters and everyone grandstanding for some nobody to go to Robert Rodriguez's house and collect, $30,000 a plate donations, it's disgusting. We're sick of it. You already suck off of us. You got your red carpets, your Air Force One, all of it. People are tired of it. Chinese communist presidents don't act like this. Vladimir Putin doesn't act like this. He'll have about 5 cars on each end of them. They'll have different routes and maybe a helicopter above. Or he'll fly around by helicopter. Again, American presidents didn't used to act like this unless it was an inauguration or something. They did it as a big stunt. This started back in the days of Woodrow Wilson and people. They would have these trains would go through the countryside. And then the president would stop at train stations that were already like Grand Central Station full of people. And everybody would wave at them. And they would take shots for the newspapers. That was all Edward Bernays, the propaganda, saying, make them like theater stars. Then later, make them like Hollywood stars. Listen, Obama isn't our Hollywood star. And I'm sick of it. And I don't like 2 hours of a highway shutdown for him. And people are starting to get it and resonate.
Celebrate the spirit of freedom and liberty upon which our nation was founded at InfoWarsShop.com. Molon Lave is ancient Greek for come and take it. This popular design combines both classic Greek Spartan imagery with modern M16 assault rifles. Now available in women's tees and proudly made in the USA. Celebrate the spirit of 1776 with the George Washington brass belt buckle or this incredibly sharp-looking 1776 hat. Badass. And be sure to check out the new arrivals at InfoWars Life, where you can prepare your body to perform at peak levels with Survival Shield, Nascent Iodine, Super Male Vitality, and Fluoride Shield. And Wake Up America, Immune Support Blend is the healthy choice for the gourmet coffee lover. So get incredibly high-quality, freedom-based products and help fund the revolution at InfoWarsShop.com.
Now, continuing here, here is the story that I want to get to first because it illustrates so many different angles that we're looking at. NBC News local out of Southern California, woman in labor, unable to cross the street to hospital because of Obama motorcade, had to sit there for a long period of time, I guess, as her water poured out on the street. And it was the image of the police with the yellow tape and coming up and getting in reporters and camera people's faces because their God was driving by. And it's just the idea that the entire road was shut down for a long period of time while His Imperial Highness drove by, going to different parts of Los Angeles, shutting down traffic for long periods of time, while they were basically busy going around collecting money from members of the Hollywood elite. Now, again, there's a lot of huge news going on worldwide. Potential expansion of war with Russia, proxy wars, devaluing dollar, countries leaving the dollar, the BRICS agreements that they're now talking about Germany may join, huge border collapsing, depressionary spikes, so many issues, but this is the type of thing that can really get people thinking, why does this guy or any other president have red carpets? Why do they have Air Force One? Why do members of Congress have jets now, like Nancy Pelosi and others, and the Speaker of the House, Boehner? Why do we have an imperial government that treats us like total garbage, that lives behind fences and have armed bodyguards? But then that same government is lobbying to disarm the American people in the poorest areas of this country. They are expanding the fleet of congressional jets. They've just spent another $550 million, according to the Wall Street Journal, to buy some new jets for themselves this year. And some of them are large type aircraft like Air Force One. And again, it's all part of them being the new elite, the Hollywoodization of the politicians. They've always said that politics is show business for ugly people. Well, it's worse than that. You have the merger of Hollywood entertainment with the imperial presidency, and that's been going on in the last 20 years, really bad. It goes back to Jack Kennedy, so you could say 40, 50 years, but it's been accelerating the last 20 years or so, to the point now where you see Obama in movies. Almost every movie I go see now, Obama's in it. If it's a cop movie or an adventure movie or a sci-fi movie, there's Obama in it, shooting fake newscasts for the film. I mean, just a few years ago, remember Arnold Schwarzenegger couldn't be in movies because of the law in California? That you can't make money off films and things when you're part of the state film initiative program. If you study the old Soviet Union, and the Nazis for that matter, Hitler was obsessed with controlling German Hollywood and making the stars come and have sex with him if they wanted to keep being in the films. And Joseph Goebbels and what they wanted inserted, and J. Edgar Hoover trying to control Hollywood and television and cop shows, and the Pentagon involved manipulating it. This has been going on for a long time. But what it's about is your local mayor going and voting to spend hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars to pay for Ecclestone to have his Formula One track paid for and be given tax exemption so the mayor can go and be in the box each time and fly around on helicopters with the Formula One owners and rub shoulders with Hollywood people. that are all paid to basically come to the event so they can control the local government. It's all a big vanity fair, all a bunch of narcissistic, mentally ill people. I mean, we've all seen the mothers that will put their children in these beauty pageants or in these dancing classes so they'll go perform. And it's not about the kids being in a beauty pageant or a talent show or being models. It's about the moms putting on 20 layers of makeup and lipstick and going and imagining narcissistically that they're these big stars. Because Hollywood and television has created the illusion that you aren't anybody if you're not in show business. And so many people that are anchormen and women, so many newscasters, so many media people only get in to the media because they want to be stars. And I've been inside of this now for 20 years, and I've seen it. I've seen it in the liberty movement where I would say it's got to be 80% of the people that get involved in it to be radio hosts or to make films are doing it to be big stars themselves and are violently jealous of anyone and everyone else in the movement and can work with no one because they're constantly trying to undermine everybody else because they're so narcissistic and so mentally ill. And then they will accuse you of undermining them while all they do in truth, when you know the inside baseball, is undermine others. Again, it's a manifestation of that. I got involved in media because they were trying to ban guns and private sale of guns and junior shooting groups under the age of 18, and because they were taking farmers and ranchers' land without just compensation and giving it to environmental mafia front groups for development. I got involved because my grandfather was told to clean out the city creek behind his house, even though it wasn't his property. They started giving him $2,000 a day fines. And I had to go prove in court and the rest of it that it was a fraud. I got involved because I don't like being pushed around. I got involved because I was so disgusted by the political class and the wannabe media class and all the people trying to act like they've arrived and act like they're somebody and act like they know everything when the average person in media is a mentally ill, scared narcissist who is living in a poser fantasy land. And that goes for mainstream media, dinosaur media, alternative media, new media, you name it. The mark of real media is that you promote stories and ideas and culture and information that's positive and truthful. And you work with others who have that same goal in mind because that's the big brass ring. That's the goal. Don't let them confiscate the guns. Don't let them implode the borders. Don't let them take all the private property. Don't let George Soros and Warren Buffett lobby for higher taxes on middle class when they're almost completely tax exempt and help write the laws to make themselves exempt. Expose the fraud. Don't let them shut off our power plants. Don't let them ship our jobs overseas. Shop at the farmer's market. Stand up for the Amish being SWAT team for selling cheese to their neighbors. Stand up for the mother having her 2 children taken with no due process for CPS because they want to sell them into the adoption market. Stand up against the Christians and Muslim minorities being slaughtered by ISIS. Who's going to stand up for them? Having empathy for other people. Realizing that if you don't have empathy for the people in all these war-torn regions, if you don't understand what they're going through, the reason you have an instinct to care about them and to want it to stop and to not want to have it being done in your name is because subconsciously and at an ingrained DNA level, you know what comes around goes around, and you know subconsciously in your spirit, in your gut, that if you don't stand up for the innocents being killed, it'll end up happening to you and your innocence. You don't want that bad karma, or what you call, you reap what you sow. You're God-fearing. What does God-fearing mean? It means you instinctively don't want to do bad, don't want to be involved in evil. Doesn't mean you're perfect, but your heart is right. Most people that are involved in different endeavors in government, period, are in it wholly to advance themselves personally, not realizing we've got to advance everybody in the final equation. or we all fall.
Now you can watch the InfoWars Nightly News streaming live as it happens for free.
Check it out at Infowars.com/show.
Our country is collapsing by design, and we've got this supposed commander-in-chief who's literally lowered our borders, funding al-Qaeda groups, shutting down our industries, devaluing our dollar, and he's running around shutting down highways in 3 or 4 cities a week, collecting money for the Democratic Party when he's not even running for re-election. While Dinesh D'Souza is facing prison time for getting 5 of his friends to donate money, which isn't even illegal, according to lawyers I've talked to. And while they're persecuting the Tea Party, gun owners, 501c3 groups that don't play ball, to intimidate all the other churches to say nothing and go along. And again, if your preacher isn't speaking out against this, A, they don't know what the First Amendment's about. They've been intimidated. And B, they're a bunch of narcissistic Pharisee glitterbugs who aren't doing anything to try to change the world. They might as well go hang out with Benny Hinn. The 7 gifts of the Holy Spirit. You know, I've never talked about this on air, and I haven't read this in decades. But when I describe being God-fearing, it isn't like some type of servitude or slavery. It's like not wanting to do something bad in front of your elderly grandmother. It's wanting to be a good person, not wanting to be separated from the spirit of goodness. That's how I've always described it. And I was probably going subconsciously from reading the 7 gifts of the Holy Spirit when I was a child. But Chris Jordan brought this into me, and it describes it absolutely perfectly. Fear of the Lord, wonder and awe. With the gift of fear of the Lord, we are aware of the glory and majesty of God. A person with wonder and awe knows that God is the perfection of all we desire. Perfect knowledge, perfect goodness, perfect power, perfect love. The gift is described as a fear of separating oneself from God. He describes the gift as a fear, like a child's fear of offending his father rather than servile fear. This is a fear of punishment. Fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. And I think that says it perfectly. And even if you don't believe in God, folks, I have a fear of peeing in a public pool. Not that I'm going to be caught. I was in a public pool with my kids just the other day and jump in, and I'm thinking, man, it'd be easy to pee in the pool. And I said, no, I'm going to get up and walk the 100, 200 yards to the bathroom, and I'm going to go to the bathroom there. And of course, I'm not being juvenile here telling the story. You've all done it. You look at most people, they're not getting up to go to the bathroom, folks. The point is, I don't want to swim around everybody's urine, and I know people are already doing it, but I'm not going to contribute to it. Now, a lot of you say, oh, I go ahead and pee in the public pool. And a lot of you out there know you do it. The point is that why don't you just crap in the pool then? Oh, well, you know, that would be really gross, wouldn't it? And everybody might see you then. Well, it's the same thing about committing crime, or the same thing being corrupt, or the same thing giving in to the New World Order. If you feel first, you pee in the pool. Well, next you're doing number 2 in the pool. And again, I don't usually use gross analogies, but it's the best analogy I've got. What if everybody went to public pools? Let's say Barton Springs. That's where I was at. Big natural spring-fed pool. I like to go there in the morning when it's not full of people peeing in it. But the point is that they've done studies on these so-called environmentalists where they're 6 times more likely, government study in Canada last year, to steal. There was another study out just last week out of England where leftists are more apt to steal and lie and cheat. And I'm not saying all environmentalists aren't real environmentalists. I'm a real environmentalist, a conservationist. But the establishment fake leftists, there it is, London Guardian. How going green may make you mean. Ethical consumers less likely to be kind and more likely to steal. Another study There's a whole bunch of them. That's London Guardian. EPA memo to employees, please stop pooping in the hallway. People say, well, why would they poop in the hallway? The toilet wasn't broken. It's fun for a leftist to poop in the hallway. I'm trying to explain this to people. I've studied them.
That's the Environmental Protection Agency, pooping in the hallway.
Well, if you read the full report, it's pooping at their desk as well, or pooping on other people's desk. And I'm not trying to be juvenile here, folks. This is what happens to a society in decline. The Japanese have always been known as the cleanest people in the world and into being honorable people. So how do the young people rebel now? They wear adult diapers and poop on themselves. That describes a nihilistic society at the edge of a cliff, who've been given so much power like spoiled kids they don't care anymore, except these spoiled kids want to run our lives and start World War III. They are mentally ill fascists is what they are. Alex Jones here to break down some exciting developments in the area of research concerning supplemental iodine. It's nothing less than phenomenal. I began to get into iodine a few years ago because it was helping me and my family so much get healthy and detoxify. And I used some of the mainline iodine supplements and they upset my stomach and I had some issues with it. Until I discovered a product being developed by Dr. Group, who I was already interviewing as an expert on my radio show, and I began taking the product before he actually rolled it out. You now know it as Survival Shield, true nascent iodine that your body can really absorb. Then, about a year ago, he said, listen, if you think this is powerful, I'm going to come out with rare earth, deep earth crystals that are incredibly powerful that no one else has as a source for their iodine from between 7,000 and 12,000 feet, literally drilled out of the ground. You put it on a hot plate and it turns into the pure gas. No one else has 99.99% pure iodine. And the results that I personally have had have been life-changing. I was over 270 pounds. And with the iodine, exercise, and better diet, I have lost now more than 50 pounds total, and I'm continuing to lose the weight. I have more energy, my libido, all this crap came out of my skin. I believe our research is conclusive. This is the best iodine out there. And I know this for a fact. Nobody else has got iodine based on these pure crystals, ladies and gentlemen. This is innovating. This is trailblazing. And the best part is it helps fund Infowars.com, the radio show, the TV show, the whole media operation promoting true libertarian ideas. For a limited time, experience the ancient power of Survival Shield X2. Take advantage of this unprecedented 30% off Super Detox special at Infowarslife.com.